Ooby Cavey, baby.
You ready?
Yeah.
Let's get loud. I am recording now. Boom. Can you hear me okay? Alright. Hi. Today we're going to be planing this fine piece of lumber and all of its buddies to its final thickness. Yesterday I finished up planing everything out of warp. There's a little bitty video I made yesterday explaining how to use the planer and another flatboard to plane the warp out of a board so you'd have one true flat surface. We'll post that maybe as, I don't know, we'll get it in there. So this surface is completely flat except for this stupid knot, and that's fine. It's got a bit of a hair, got a bit of a lip. I'm gonna try and gouge that out a little bit before I start, but yesterday I marked everything on one edge what the maximum thickness was of the board, and they were all generally just shy of 1.5 inches. But if I turn the board around and you look at the end, you can see, looking at the end, that one side is much thicker than the other, and that's from having to take off material to get this board flat on one side. So on this side we've got approximately, it's shy of 1.5 inches, but if you come up to the top here, it's about 1/8 of an inch or so narrower. So when we start taking material off of this board, it's only going to be coming off the high end first. Probably will end up not using this section of the piece of wood anyway. I don't mind having knots, but this knot has raised a little bit, and it's just because it's really big, and I don't care if I have an uneven surface right here. It's got a high edge now because it's been exposed to the air, so we're just going to take that off. Smaller knots I won't mind using, but these bigger knots will probably, you know, cut the board here and use it for a shorter piece, or to use to make the window frames, and so we'll cut this down and that'll be fine. And we'll probably do the same thing on this side and completely eliminate that chunk of wood. So the knot's just way too big, and because it's already curled up a little bit, I know that it's an unstable area, and you want to make sure that you're using all the stable material, which would be there to there. The knots just tend not to be too stable. So anyway, I've got the planer set to 1.5 inches. That's my maximum height. The first pass or two probably won't take any material off. In a video I made yesterday that only God can see because the camera actually wasn't running like I thought it was, I explained how I I don't mind if the first couple of passes don't take anything off, because when we're running this through the planer, I'm only taking a 32nd of an inch off of material with each pass. But if I set it too low and it takes too big a bite, it could damage the blades. It could break the planer drive. It could just break the planer, and I would rather make extra passes to start taking material than risk breaking the machine. So take your time. There's no point in going fast. That's the life of doing it yourself, I guess. This wood I bought 12 years ago for commercial shelving, and I'm going to be getting rid of the commercial shelving, so we're recycling the wood into the project, into this tiny house project. It's really stable wood, which is why we're comfortable using it. But you can't see it in the video, but these knots really represent what nice wood this is, just for being construction grade lumber, because this knot is really sticky. There's a lot of resin in this wood, and if you rub it with your hand and smell it up against your face, it just smells wonderful and piney and good. But these knots take a toll on the planer blades, and I don't know if we're killing the sound for this or not, but as it goes through, we're only taking a 32nd of an inch off at a time, which is not a lot of material, but it hits those knots and sounds like we're taking off an 1/8 of an inch at a time, and that's just because the knots are so stinking hard. So all my pencil marks are gone. I'm going to do a measurement, and I am right at 1 3/8 of an inch, and that's great. That's a great thickness to be at. I'm going to measure right over here and get at least a second measurement. So I'm at 1 3/8 of an inch on thickness. That's great. I was happy to go to 1 1/4, but now I'll amend my thickness on here to 1 3/8, and that's going to be my goal. That's going to be, this was one of the worst boards out of warp, so I've taken more material off of this than most of the others, and that's the general thickness I'm going to try and shoot for. There's going to be a couple of boards, actually there's like 2 boards that are going to be a little less than 1/4 of an inch thick, and that'll be fine. I'm going to use those for the bathroom windows, so those windows won't open, so it doesn't matter if those pieces are a little bit thinner, because nothing's going to be opening on them. They're just going to be fixed windows. So that's that. I'm going to reset the planer to 1 1/2 inch thick, and then start running a production line of all my boards at once. Instead of doing one at a time, I'm going to be doing all of them at one time. So I'll be passing everything. That way I don't have to keep resetting the planer. So now everything's got to be marked up, so I'm going to mark all the boards.
Okay.
The last thing I'm going to do that I did before I start planing is I scribbled the surface with pencil, and that's so I can monitor visually where the material's coming off with each pass. because I only want to take enough material off to eliminate the pencil marks. Once the pencil marks are gone completely, I'm done, because I don't want to plane this below 1 1/4 inches. I'd like this to be as thick as I can have it, and the pencil mark will help me see where the material is coming off and when to be completely done. So that's that, and I'm ready to start. This is time consuming, but and probably not critical to do it, but it's the process I developed for finishing the material, so I'm going to stick with it to the end. Most of the wood you would notice when everything's gone, but sometimes you can't tell if all of the uneven material has been ripped off yet. So anything you can do to make your life easier. This kind of stuff I'm not crazy about. This might kick out while I'm planing it and tear it all out. And this should be fine, but this is the kind of stuff we'll work around. So I'll cut this section out and use it for something else. Okay, so you might notice when I'm feeding the planks through that they might stop feeding, and that's because we're only taking off such a little amount of material.
Hey.
The hell with it, we're just going to keep going. Because it's such an uneven surface, it stops feeding because the rollers don't have anything to touch anymore to feed it through. I'm okay with that, you know, in the beginning. It's okay to pull material through to help the machine along, as opposed to forcing it in. If you're putting off so much material that it can't feed anymore, you could end up breaking the machine. But this is stopping the feed because it doesn't have anything to hold on to. So anyway, I just wanted to explain that. And you can tell by looking at this surface, the surface of these two boards, the unevenness from the pencil marks. So anyway, there's that. As always, there's that. What you call it? Whoop. Here's a little sample window I made of how the windows are going to be built. We're using a different hinge, but we're going to use these pieces of wood to make the window frame. My hardware's on upside down on it, but so I can't open it all the way. Here, let's do this. So this was my practice run to get all of my cuts and all of my routing. My skills are terrible because don't use this to judge what we're doing next. This was practice. So, but this is the piece that I'll be cutting first. And on this one, I didn't plane it, and so it's really warped. So it's warped the whole thing, but this was for practice, so I'm okay with it. But we've got to be able to cut the front lip into it at 5 degrees for rain runoff with a slot. You can see it cut in it to put the window seal into, because the window seal, you know, we don't screw it on, it just slides into a slot. So that's what this material is for. It's for the base plate for the window. What the fuck are they called? This is the frame. This is the window frame.
So?
Well, we'll work it out later. let's just accept for now that I've forgotten the word. But we're building all of these first, and I'm gonna use a different wood for the rest of the
word you've forgotten?
for the word I've forgotten. Holy crap. What are we building again? Who am I? Who were you? Oh my god. Somebody take me back to the home. What? But anyway, that's what this is for. We're gonna build the base pieces first, and then I'll use whatever lumber is left over, and there's plenty, to cut all the window frame pieces, and we'll get all that planed down to a proper thickness too, because since we're making custom sizes, I felt like just building the windows from scratch, and again, it's a money saving thing. We're still going to spend a lot of money on the windows, but not nearly as much as having them all done to custom sizes, and that's that. Any other questions, woman? I mean, my love. Right. All right.
Yep. You're going.
Right on.
That's much better.
Great golden monkey tits. Hi there. What's that? Look at my naughty pine. Ugh. Yeah. Peace out. I don't know. Are you ready?
I'm recording.
I am recording now. Can you hear me okay? All right. Hi.